Today's a really special day, right? It's our annual meeting. It's the day where we actually we take a break from our regular messages, and we just kind of look at the things that have happened and where we can go. So what I want to invite us to do is actually step back, relax a little bit, and let's take in the view. Now, normally what I would do today is that I would review the past, and then I would kind of cast a vision for the year ahead. But because I'm transitioning out in a few months, that's not really my vision to cast. It's not my place to cast a vision for this church this year. That's for those who will lead after I'm gone. But I won't be casting a vision specifically for the church, but as I kind of got things together, as I sat down, as I thought about kind of why we do what we do, all of us, why we do what we do as followers of Christ, I realized that there's a pretty common vision for the future that we all share. So a little later in the message, when I get to that part, that's the vision that I'll share with you, the vision I think that we all truly share. But before we get into any of the details, the thing that I most want to say today is that no matter where we all head to from here, no matter what we do individually as well as collectively, I think there's something that we can say with joy. Is that as we look back on the past year, it is filled with reasons for joy. That so many kind of really cool things happened this past year. And although the future never provides certainty, ever. But we can go into our future with confidence. Confidence that Jesus is with us, confidence that as we follow his leading, we will do more than we ever imagined we could do. So as we get started, I want to start out by looking back. Now, as I sat down this week to get ready, something occurred to me that I had not realized. Now, as many of you know, I've been here for approaching 3 years now. But in that time, I was here for 2020, 2021, 2022. 2022 was the only year I've been here where we met in person all year. In 2020 and 2021, we had huge portions of the year where we were online only. We couldn't safely come together. We wanted to respect the concerns about the pandemic. And then after I realized that it was only a little bit over 18 months ago that we actually opened our doors and left them open. So we've only really kind of been heads down doing what we do for a little over a year and a half. And once I looked at it in that context, I'm like, man, we did some really good stuff last year. We had a really short runway to get started, and we got a chance to do some really, really neat stuff. Now, if you were here for our annual meeting last year, we kind of set out a vision, and I kind of gave some details with that vision. But there was an overarching thing we wanted to do. We wanted to start to connect more directly with our community. That was kind of the very top of what we were doing, and everything we did was built underneath of that. Now, we divided that kind of into two larger sections. One section was we wanted to actually launch some new programs. And we knew that would be challenging. It was even more challenging than we thought it would be. It was actually really hard to do that. We had a goal to set 3 new programs in action, each of which would kind of connect with people at different portions of their life or different phases of their life. We got one started, and that was KidMint. Now, the good news is, if I could only get one started, that to me is the most important one. So we got that one rolling. So I'm grateful that we were able to get that going. But now the other goal we had was this idea of doing things that very directly engage with and connect with our community, a chance to actually really personally interact with people. Because there's some key things we wanted to address there. The reality is that for many people, in fact, I might even argue that for most people, there are lots of barriers to keep people from considering coming to church. There are many things that make it so people just are not comfortable coming to church. So what we wanted to do throughout the things that we did was try to reduce those barriers, to try to take away the reasons that people might be uncomfortable coming to church. and make them or help them to be comfortable and help them to see that there's something here. But we also wanted to be sure that we had our arms as wide open as we possibly could, knowing that there would be some people who would never have any interest in attending church. And we still wanted to make sure that they felt welcome and they could be part of the things we were doing. Now, why would we do that? Why would we do all those things? Why would we put so much time and energy into reaching people outside the church? Why would we even put any energy into people who may not even be interested at all in church? Why would we do that? Well, because Jesus said we're supposed to do that. Jesus makes it really clear that as a Jesus follower, the most important thing we are called to do is to point the way towards him. That our growth as individual Christians grows most when we actually look past ourselves and start to care for and do things in the lives of other people. Jesus puts it like this: you are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. Now, you may recall that we actually talked about this verse a bit a few months back. And one of the things that, as we see that, you're a city on a hill. Okay, great. Yeah, cities have lights. That kind of makes sense. But in the first century, they would have heard something quite amazing. Because in the first century, in that part of Israel, many of the buildings are built with this stone that's locally available. It is a white stone. And so as you build these buildings, you put these large white stones, you stack them up. And now if that's on top of a hill in the middle of a desert, when that desert sun shines down and hits that building, those buildings glow like a lighthouse. They become a beacon out to the surrounding desert, saying there's something here you can find. That you're in a desert out there, but if you come this way, you'll find something more. That's what the first century listener would hear. And then as Jesus continues, he says, no one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. So Jesus is giving two examples of something that's basically the same. That in a large area, there is a relatively small light. And although that light might be small, it shines. It shines throughout the area. For the city on the hill, it shines out into the distance of the desert. Inside of a room, a little lamp fills the room with light. Something that might appear small actually has the ability to reach out to everyone in the area. And Jesus says that's what we're supposed to do. That we're meant to be that small light. He actually puts it this way. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. So Jesus is saying that our light is meant to shine, and it's not meant to just shine inside of here. It's meant to shine out there, brightly from here out to there. It should shine out to the world around us, and it should be a light that invites people in and draws people in. This is what we call the Great Commission. Jesus says, this is what I came to teach you how to do. This is what I died for and was resurrected, so that you would be a light that points out into the world, calling people towards him. And he said, the way you do that is by doing good things. By doing good things for the people around you. And as you do those good things, people will start to feel invited towards God. That Jesus calls us to represent him in a way that is attractive to people, that actually helps us to engage with people in the same way that he did. And Jesus calls us to make a difference in people's lives in just the same way he did. That's what he commands us to do. And he makes it really clear by his own example that we are to look past our own interests and look towards the well-being of others. Right? Jesus, as the Son of God, had everything, literally everything. And he gave it all up to come to us, to give us life. And so when he said, love others as I have loved you, that's what he meant. To put the well-being and the interest of others beyond our own. That when we are willing to do that, when we are willing to use our time and our resources to help people, to support people, to care for people, to help people find joy in a very challenging world, Jesus tells us that people will see God in that when we take actions like that. And one of the key things that Jesus showed us and what Jesus taught us is that when he offered life to people, when he offered hope to people, he didn't ask for anything in return. Right? That Jesus gave hope, healing, and life freely to everyone. There was no transaction involved. I didn't imagine if you were important enough or good enough or rich enough or followed all the rules. He didn't care about any of that. He simply gave freely to those who would receive it. So we give freely to those who want to receive it. That's the mindset that chose the things that we did last year. That's what we tried to do under everything that we added last year. To be that light into the world, to give freely, to put together the best experiences we could, give those away freely, hoping that people would find joy in those things, that we would certainly find joy in doing those things, and that through that, people would actually be drawn towards Jesus. That was our overriding goal. Now, as part of doing that, as part of trying to be this light into the world, doing our best to be the light into this world, there are many things that this church has done for years that we continue to do because those things are important. I mean, one of the things that this church has consistently been throughout in this town is a place for people to come together, for organizations to come together. Right? We have our Red Cross blood drives here every month. The WIC program, Women, Infant, and Children, they work out of here as well. Right? 4-H meets here each month. We've had AA here and Al-Anon meeting here for years, but we were even blessed to be able to expand that this past year. That we've had a Wednesday meeting for many years, but then we added a Saturday meeting. There was a Saturday meeting looking for a home, and we're like, come here. We got to do that. The church has often been a distribution center for the Warner Christmas Project, where people around town donate gifts the parents in need can actually give to their children for Christmas. And that's one that I've gotten to be a part of each year I've been here, where we actually pass those out to the families. I get to meet the families and be part of that. What an incredible blessing that has been. And of course, the international things we've done for a long time, the shoe boxes that are sent out to those in need, and BAM, the little girl in Thailand, through Compassion International, that we've supported for many years and commit to support her through her 18th birthday. We continue doing all those things. But we also got to work doing a bunch of new things. Things that would actually allow us to really start to personally connect with people in our community. And what I wanted to do is kind of run through some of the highlights of that right now. And I have pictures of people who look way better than me. So we'll have some fun with that. They were hard to find, just so you know. There you go. There you go. The grown, at least. All right. Right. So where did we do? Where did we start? You know, it's funny that when we cast this vision last February, we didn't want to waste any time. We wanted to get started. So we talked about this at the beginning, about doing new things in the beginning of February. And then within weeks, we got started with our Double Impact Food Drive, right, where we actually were able to donate over 2,000 cans of food, right, to Warner Connects Food Pantry. And this was such a cool thing to me because it brought so many pieces together, right, that as a congregation, right, so many folks brought food, canned food together that could be donated. But also people throughout our community were dropping off tons of canned food to be distributed. And then we as a church doubled it, right? So if you donated 2 cans, 4 cans went to the food pantry, right? You donate 4, 8 cans go to the food pantry. You donate 5, 10 cans go to the food pantry. And before we knew it, we had over 2,000 cans of food. In fact, We had to purchase so much food, we had to spread out buying it. So we weren't wiping the grocery store out. That's what you did. And we were just getting started last year when we did that. From there, we went on, and we had our first Easter Jam event. Right, Easter Jam was, the doors were open. We were set up with lots of tables, with lots of small toys and candy to be passed out. We had the Easter Bunny here. We had over 50 kids come through for that. If you count the parents and everyone who was with them, over 100 people came through for that. That's actually where we met Michaela, Sherry, and Amelia. Amelia's the little girl who goes to Sunday school here. And that family is actually joining our church this year. And we first met them at Easter Jam. So we started to make some contact there. We knew things would take time, but we wanted to get started. So I just wanted to get a picture here of it was so cool seeing so many people down there. It was actually crowded almost in a difficult way at times, which was really, really cool, actually. But that only happened because of our volunteers. Volunteers came together to do the decorating, to do the setup, to pass things out, to do all the cleanup. All that was possible because of you and those who volunteered to do that. And then the week later, we launched KidMin. Now, admittedly, KidMin has been challenging to gain growth. We've had a few kids come through, but we've really struggled to get growth there. But what we have been very blessed to do is have Amelia, who we didn't even know until a couple weeks before that, come week after week, and for her family to come week after week. Of course, they're not here today, but, actually Sherry's traveling, and Michaela, the mom, is sick. But they came out, and Bonnie gets to walk with Amelia as she, in her young life, learns about Jesus. And we can only do that again because of those who volunteer, Nancy, Joyce, Nicole Morris, and Nicole Sargent's obviously busy already. But Nicole Morris, so Nancy, Joyce, Nicole, and Sandy, and actually Terry is starting to work into that rotation as well. Again, only possible because of all that you do. Now, we wanted to make sure that we were continuing to engage with children in the area. So a few weeks later, went to Spring in the Warner on an 80-plus degree May day. It was hot that day. But it was kind of cool. What we did is that we provided all the supplies for sand art. So lots of colored sands, the little bottles so you can layer the sand inside of them. Kids could come out, build those. We would then seal the bottle for them to take home with them. All that was 100% free. What we wanted to do was give the kids a chance for an experience to do something fun and have something to take with them to remember that they did it. We had over 50 kids participate in doing that. And I have some artists for you to see. We have this lovely young lady doing her first ever sand art project, and we got to be a part of that. So again, they layer the sands in the bottle. We seal the bottle. They get to take that with them. And another young girl here, she was kind of a pro, it seemed, though. She seemed to be able to know how to do it. But we got to do that with, say, over 50 different kids. Now, as time went on, the war in Ukraine was rising up. And we wanted to do something that could make a difference there. And we wanted to make sure that we were doing it in a way that engaged our community. So what we did is we partnered with the library. And we became a drop-off center for clothing and other supplies. And what we did is we actually cooperated with a church down in near Manchester, which is the Slavic Baptist Church, that actually had a connection to get things to the Ukraine. So we partnered with them. They told us the sort of things that were needed. We became a drop-off center for it. We organized it. And then the library arranged transportation to get it down there, as well as helped us promote all that stuff. And as a result, we were able to send a pickup truck load of stuff, as well as 2 carloads down. Jim Thomas was a big part of that. And also, some of you guys will recognize Nate, who's done things with us on and off over time. Nate actually was our driver for the pickup truck. He used his truck, paid for all the gas, and that's when gas prices were at their absolute high. And he just took care of all that for us to take things down there. So again, our congregation comes together with our community. Our church provides additional resources. We work with the library. And then by cooperating with another church, people in Ukraine have things they would not have had otherwise. Now, we did take the rest of the summer off, but then once we got into fall, things ramped up again. We had Halloween Jam, much like Easter Jam, just Halloween themed. Had over 75 kids come through that, all totaled with parents, almost 125 people. But for me, I really liked all those things, but the thing that was coolest to me, we had 25 people volunteer that night. 25 people setting up, handing things out, working the tables, interacting with everybody, cleaning up. Most people were from our church. Some people were people who don't come to our church at all who did that, or just don't come, frequently, sort of thing. We all came together again, pulling it all together to engage with our community. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was something this church has done for years, but we did it a little bit differently this year, which was our Thanksgiving baskets. The church has given out Thanksgiving meals for many years, but we we adjusted the kind of foods we were giving out a little bit, and we actually opened it up for donations. And you guys came through. You guys brought tons and tons of food. I know I counted it a couple times because I lost count a couple times. But you guys brought tons of food, and ultimately, we fed over 150 people Thanksgiving dinner across 56 families. And again, the way it worked out was that you guys brought all this food. We used laundry baskets to give them out, as opposed to cardboard that's got to be thrown away, so people kind of have something useful after that. But then we also had to build the baskets. So we had a build day, and we opened it up. Many people from our church volunteered, but also people from the community, people I'd never known before, came in and helped us build the baskets. And we literally built all the baskets in about an hour. We were set and done, ready to go. So we had to find things to do. No, we always have things to do, but we got to pass them out later that day. So that's what you did this year. That's what you did with your 2022. You actually reached out into the community, and you made a difference. Each of you shined like a light into this community. Right? Each of you did good for the community that could be seen, that would shine like a light to invite people to know God. And those things don't happen quickly. It takes time. But those things do happen when we stay with it. Because you made a difference in people's lives. You made a difference in the lives of adults. You made a difference in the lives of children. You made a difference in the lives of people who were struggling to get through. But you also made a difference in your own life. Because we are all changed when we actually put the needs of others first. We are all changed when we hear God call us to do something and we choose to do it. And by doing that, you showed your community that something special is here. That the people here are special. The special things happen here. That this church is the shining light on a hill. Inviting people to know God. Inviting people to know that there is more to life than the struggles that they're going through. And that there is a path to see and experience something different. That's what you did last year. I am so proud of you, and I am so thankful to all of you for doing that, because it makes a difference for all of us, me included. So what about the future now? What's the vision for the future? What should we do? Because our paths will soon travel separately. But I think even as our paths kind of head down slightly different roads, I think there's a common vision for all of us. In fact, I feel confident in that because Jesus told us that there is a common vision for all of us. Right? Jesus goes and says, "Therefore go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you. And be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age." Right? That's what we call the Great Commission. Jesus, as he was wrapping things up, said, "This is what I've called you to do." So that's Jesus' vision for your life. That's Jesus' vision for my life. Jesus gave us really clear instructions around it. He said, go out, reach people, invite people to come to know him. In other words, his instructions were, do more of what you did last year. Keep doing that stuff. Understand that it takes time, and it takes time to grow. Be that beacon. But also, don't stop there, right? Don't stop with just those sort of things. Recognize that the way people grow in relationship with Jesus is by being in relationship with you, by walking together with you, so that you can share with them the things that you have learned and the things that you have come to understand. That Jesus' plan was always to recognize that we are all in different stages of our learning and understanding, and that those who are slightly ahead should be supporting those who are slightly behind them. And that should carry all the way down. Yes, there should be someone, teachers, like people like me who stand at the front and kind of talk to groups of people. But the core of it was always meant to be people walking together, one-on-one, supporting each other, figuring things out together. So Jesus invites us to invite people to get to know him, right? To walk with them, to help them to become comfortable, but also be willing to do what it takes, recognizing that it will not always be easy. In fact, it will often be quite difficult. And being difficult doesn't have to mean you live in some part of the world where Christians are persecuted. That is one form of difficulty. We are very blessed to not have that here. But there are still things that are difficult that we have to push through, where we have to let our own desires go sometimes so we can make a difference in someone else's life. We need to push through difficult circumstances. We need to stay anchored in our faith even when we experience challenges. Not that we don't lose faith sometimes. That certainly happens, and that's okay. But it's when we go through things and we hang on tightly to our faith that's another kind of light that starts to shine through us. What Jesus asked us to do is to live out life in the way that he did, right? To take action that helps people see that there's something more to this life than it appears on the surface. And to show people that our faith, our personal faith, is not some compartment of our lives. It's not something we do on Sundays and forget about the rest of the week. That a healthy faith is an underpinning of our lives. It actually is the thing that gives us guidance and direction and purpose in our lives. And that we should also live out in a way to demonstrate that the Bible is not just some ancient rule book listing a bunch of things you're not supposed to do, you're not allowed to do. The Bible's not there to take away the good things from life, right? The Bible's there to show us how to live a good life, a full life, a meaningful life. And people discover that by watching you, by watching me. That we can show people by the way we live, with our confidence in what we understand, that God gives us something more than this life alone gives us. That there's a God who wants to be in this life with us and speak to us and lead us and teach us. That there's a God who shows us how to heal from all those pains and things you've built up over our lives, right? Those things we've talked about for these past several weeks, that those scars and pains and hurts that we've pushed down for so long, that have held us down for so long. That there's a God who wants to show you how to break free of that and rise above that. Nothing we can tell people demonstrates that. It's the way we live it out that demonstrates this. That's the invitation that we're given. And that there's a God who wants to help us not make those same mistakes that we've made so many times before. To recognize that there are tools that teach us and guide us and show us how to live a healthy life, a joyful life, a transformative life. That's what Jesus invites us to do. He invites us to internalize those things, and he invites us to share those things. That's what Jesus has asked us to do. That's his vision for my life. That's his vision for your life. That's his vision for this church, is to do those things. As we talk about all that, I wanted to share kind of one more hope that I have for this church. That in the time that comes forward, as I transition out, and inevitably there will be shifting among leadership, my hope is that we will continue to prioritize those things that we were doing last year. That we will prioritize doing the sort of things that we are called to do. Right? That we would, I guess it would come down to is I have one hope for this church, one additional hope for this church. And it actually comes from the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul was writing a letter to a church in the city of Philippi. And he was kind of talking to them about what is it that keeps a church healthy? Keeps a church healthy. So what is it that keeps a church healthy, keeps them on track, keeps them doing what they're called to do? And as part of that letter, he said, "Make me truly happy by agreeing wholeheartedly with each other, loving one another, and working together with one mind and purpose." That's my hope. In the inevitable shift that comes in the months ahead, that we come together, that everyone here comes together with common purpose, with a common direction, to answer these instructions from Jesus, to be that light that shines outward, and to share the things we have grown to know and understand. And that everyone here would do that with love for one another, agreeing for one another, resisting the temptation to say, this is my chance to get exactly what I want. But instead, putting those things aside for the mission. The mission is more important than what any of us want. We come together to make a difference for others. Never allowing our individual desires to interfere with what Jesus himself called us to do. This is not a matter of interpretation. Jesus was crystal clear. That's how we choose to be that shining light on a hill. So these are my hopes, my dreams, my vision for all of us. Jesus invites you personally to be a light into this world. He invites me personally to be a light into this world. And collectively, this church is invited to be a bright, glowing light in this town. My friends, there is so much difficulty in the world. There is so much suffering in the world. Right? There are so many people hurting in the world. God empowers you to make a difference in somebody's life. And Jesus calls us to use that, to do that, to engage with people, to change things around us. And he gives us the power to do it if we'll hear him and we will follow. So in the year and years ahead, that is my prayer for you. That is my prayer for me. That is my prayer for the church. We will rise up to be a light and follow Jesus' leading in our life.